I'm Cynthia James, and this network is about changing lives one woman at a time. We are changing the world one woman at a time. In fact, we're changing the entire planet one woman at a time. I get the opportunity to introduce you to women that inspire me, women that are change makers, women that have stepped onto the path of their purpose and their empowerment and are willing to share with you how they got there. So I get to introduce you today to Tracy Brown. Let me tell you just a little bit about her. She is a nationally recognized expert whose clients rely on her advice about leadership development, diversity strategy, and employment engagement. Her company, Intentional Inclusion, Inc., has provided training to more than 450,000 people, and she's been recognized twice for innovation in diversity by the Celebrate Diversity Awards, sponsored by Ernst & Young. Tracy is an accomplished speaker, an amazing speaker, an author of 11 books, who is known for her ability to engage people in sensitive conversations. Tracy, welcome.
I am happy to be with you, Cynthia James.
Well, we've known each other in a lot of different iterations, but wherever she is, this is what I want you all to know, wherever she is, whatever she's doing, whether she's speaking or facilitating or working with people in intimate ways, it's always about opening the heart and understanding that we're all connected. So I want to know what's your background? Where did you come from and how did you get to this work?
The short version, of course. So I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, and um, when I think about the work that I do in the world today, I really do have to realize that I started being prepared for that when I was 2 years old. And my Black family moved into what had previously been an all-white neighborhood. And I learned a lot about race and racism from a very, very young age. But I didn't just learn the burden of it or the problem of it. I also learned the opportunity from it. And so that was a beginning. But if I look at every 5 to 7 years of my life, I was put in some situation where I was the minority. Maybe it was by race, maybe it was by gender, maybe it was by profession, maybe it was by language. And so, of course, I learned that you can build cross cultural bridges. And my mission in life became to not only be a person to build cross cultural bridges, but to be able to help other people do that as well.
Yeah. And so did you start off in leadership development or did you kind
Um,
of ease into diversity strategy? I mean, how did it all come together?
so it is fascinating to because again, I think everything is by divine design. So I have a I have dual undergraduate degrees. So I went to college and I got um, 2 degrees from the College of Speech and Drama, one on the speech side, one on the drama side. So the speech side, it was business communications, and on the speech and drama side, it was performing arts, directing, and choreography. So that putting the show together or designing the choreography, like strategy. And on the business communication side, it was a lot of writing and all of that. In grad school, I also did a program that was unique, a mix between communications and the Graduate School of Business. And I worked in legal and financial printing as for the first part of my career. And I was a great leader and manager. But the thing that captured me was that people, I could create a system. I had a strategy, and we have policies and procedures. And as long as people followed the process, everything was great. But people don't always follow the rules. People don't always get along with each other. People You're right. It was all the people stuff that would fascinate me because that's when the breakdowns would occur. And so after about 10 years of working, not even that, after about 7 or 8 years in working, I actually made a shift and I shifted. I left one company and I shifted to working in human resources and then built an HR career, worked for Kaiser Permanente, worked in healthcare for a number of years, 8 or 9 years, and then I started my own business. And that was when I recognized that my 18 years in corporate settings was combining with my communication skills training and my performance and choreography and directing training. And all of it came together so that I could be a great speaker and facilitator, but I had good content, good experience, and a real understanding of how organizations work and what you have to do to get people to work well together. But along the way, in those previous 16 to 18 years, it felt often like, I don't know why you're going in this direction. It doesn't make sense with what were doing 3 years ago. And finally, at the same time that all of that was happening, I was going through a spiritual maturity and metamorphosis. And one of my goals was to integrate my personal priorities, my professional priorities, and my spiritual priorities as I built my business. And so that really kind of laid the foundation for what's happened over the last couple of decades.
Well, I didn't know all of this about you, but but what I did know is that there was a synchronicity in our energy because I was a performer and and I was in HR and I did a bunch of other stuff and it all started to come together. And watching you speak, it makes sense to me now because you have the beautiful blend of bringing the information and delivering it in a way that people have an experience as opposed to just downloading information. And so, of course, you're a performer, and of course, it's all come together. And that's how the world works, isn't it? It's like everything that's ever happened to us is leading us someplace.
Yes, if we just pay attention and don't fight it and know it's going to all feed who we are and who we came here to be.
Absolutely. So I want to talk, I'm sure when George Floyd got killed, your phone started ringing off the hook. And I'm sure that people came from all kinds of different directions, from being, an angry Black person to a white person going, I don't get it. What's happening? So I want to know how have you navigated all this? And did you even have friends calling you? Because I had friends calling me, Caucasian friends calling me. So I got to talk about this. How's it been for you?
Yeah, it has been fascinating. And it hasn't been overwhelming, but I think that's because for me it's so fascinating. Like people who and organizations that never wanted to talk about racism, even if they were talking about diversity, they would be quick to say, but don't spend much time on racism because, for whatever reason they would give. And now that's, all of a sudden over the course of a week, that's all they want to talk about. And it's fascinating to me. It's fascinating what the fear that is there. It's fascinating the compassion that is showing up. And most of all, it's fascinating for me the number of people who identify as white who are for the very first time recognizing that simply by being white, they have been contributing to a system that is oppressive and that is unfair in its very nature. And it's like people are seeing that, but then they still don't know what to do about it.
Exactly. Well, and do I feel guilty? Do I get out in the streets and march? What do I do? I had a woman who has been in my life for a number of years call me and say, okay, I really need an honest conversation here. I want you to tell me, in the 30 years that we've known each other, have I ever treated you with disrespect or disregard, or, and she hadn't. I mean, we never, because we're in the arenas that we were in, it was never that place, but it was my heart was so touched that she first of all, that she had the courage to make the phone call and wanted to have that conversation and was willing to hear anything I had to say. And I want to talk just a little bit about, what does it look like for us all to come to the table?
Mhm. Yeah, and I love your example because you have a 30-year relationship with that person. And so when you have a relationship, even if it hasn't been 100% transparent, you have something to fall back on, right? You have enough common experience. And so I really have been encouraging people who, have conversations with the people you have relationships with, and do that in a way that, like, ask, what is it that, you've never told me, but I really need to know? That kind of
Exactly.
question. And then be quiet and listen. Don't defend, don't don't correct, just listen. But the majority of people right now don't have those kind of relationships. They have had very superficial relationships with people who are different from them, especially by race, a racial identity group, and they are really floundering. So, what it looks like to bring everybody to the table is to really have questions about experiences, not
Mhm.
opinions,
Right.
not data, but experiences. So there's no wrong answer when you're talking about the experience. When you ask someone, tell me what it was like for you being a white person when you were 16 years old, then they're going to tell you their experience. And I don't have any judgment, right or wrong. It's their experience. Tell me what it's been like for you as an African American working in a predominantly white environment for your entire career. I can tell you my experience. There's no right or wrong. Having a conversation and saying, wow, I used to say I don't see color, and now I understand that that's really an insult or inappropriate. How does it make you feel, or how have you felt when people say that in your presence? The person can give you their experience. That's a different question than, tell me why I shouldn't say I'm colorblind, or why is it wrong for me? Or I think it's good to be colorblind, and now you have to convince me, right? Don't get into opinion, at least not initially. Frame your
Yes.
questions to get everyone around the table. And that's number one. And number two, remember that conversations about race are not just about black and white, right? And so we've got to elevate the conversation to include all shades of black, white, and brown. That we've got to recognize that there are so many people who are either in biracial relationships, or because they've been in biracial relationships, their children or their grandchildren are multi-ethnic. And we've got to realize that because of the immigration, if we only look at the US, that because of immigration, that someone who is Indian, or someone who is from Colombia, or someone who is from France, or someone who is from Greece or Korea, right? They're all different experiences, and they're part of the American experience. And finally, if we are talking about the global conversation, we still need to be talking about the impact of race. And again, it needs to be about the experience that people have, and then move it toward what's the experience we want to have.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
the only benefit of knowing about the past is kind of relationship foundation, but then we want to move toward our vision together. So that means we have to create a shared vision of what kind of experiences we want to have when we're in multi-ethnic, multiracial, multicultural settings.
Yeah. So I've been having these conversations once a month called Conversations of the Heart, and I've been asking women to come in and have these conversations where it's exactly that. This is my experience on this topic, whatever that is. But I wanted to say, because in my lifetime, I mean, we've seen civil rights, we've seen different things, but I've never seen people all over the world come out in the streets so quickly like they did after George Floyd's murder. In my lifetime, there's never been a multicultural woman nominated as a vice president in our system. In my lifetime, there's been I mean, just in the last, you know, few years, I mean, I've been seeing stuff happen that's like, whoa. So from your perspective, you know, I actually think the pandemic has been an extraordinary gift, a pause, just a pause. But from your opinion, what's happening now in terms of breaking down the old systems?
Yeah, there is a quickening, and it is interesting to think the pandemic slowed us down so that we could move faster, right? Made us more aware and more vulnerable and more conscious of how importantly we are connected, and the technology also. So it's interesting. I see cycles, and I see us moving right now in a rapid cycle, a high velocity cycle, that is really very similar to what happened in 2015, 5 years ago, after the murders in Charleston.
Mhm.
Because after the murders of 9 Black people in the church in Charleston, there was a lot of multi-ethnic uprising and complaint, but it died out after 3 months or 6 months or 9 months. Um, but that was the many people know I'm connected to the founder or the moderator of the What Is Mine to Do Facebook group that focused specifically on asking the question, what is mine to do to interrupt or end race-based hatred and violence? But that came immediately from the Charleston 9 murders, when people were doing the same thing. What can I do? I've got to do something. I've not seen this before. I've ignored this. I've felt, isolated from this racism, and it needs to stop. And we had tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people saying, I want to do something.
Yes, yes,
And now that is happening times 10.
yes.
So we've been preparing for this in 5 to 7 year cycles, since the 1960s. And it's fabulous, fabulous to see people taking personal responsibility to be a part of the solution and to interrupt the politics, the policies, the programs, the patterns that we have just been blind to because we've been socialized to live within them. And
Mhm.
now we are changing that.
Which I'm so happy about, and I'm so happy I get to witness it. So before we go, I want you to tell people how to find you, because I'm sure, a lot of people are like, I think I need her.
The
So,
easiest way to find me, especially since you know my name, is tracybrown.com, TRACY brown.com, because there are links to not only the work that I do with organizations and associations, but there's also a link to the work that I do with churches and spiritual communities under the Stained Glass Spirit brand. There's a link there to the What Is Mine to Do group, which focuses only on racism, and everything else that I do and some of the books that I've written. If you go to tracybrown.com, you can find me and in just about anything you want to know about me.
love it. So I ask every guest the same last question. What do you want women to know about awakening?
Here's what I want women to know about awakening. I want women to know that each one of you is unique. Each one of you is unique, and the world needs you. What you have come here to be, and who you have come here to be, and what you have come here to do. And there's no duplicate of you. And so it's important, not just for your self-esteem and your feeling good, to know who you are and be that authentically. It is important for the world. And so whatever you have to do to awaken to the amazing person you are and how to bring that into the world, I need you. The world needs you. Do that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I mean, you are such an example of bringing your unique expression to this planet and being in high service to humanity. I'm honored to know you and walk this path with you.
Infinite love, Cynthia James.
So, ladies, we put up new content every week. Come back, tell your friends, share this information, because every single woman here is telling you the same thing. They're telling you that you're a masterpiece in the making. They're telling you that you're magnificent. They're telling you that you're powerful and that now is the time for you. So I'm grateful to do this with you. I'm grateful to share with you. By the way, you know, you can go to Spotify or iTunes, anywhere you can get a podcast and you can download Women Awakening. I'll see you next time.